3, go.
Hey everybody, it's Aram Banyan.
Timothy Bennett here.
B&B Banter Bros, episode 11.
Yes, 11.
Oof, up in the double digits still.
Yeah, we
I
almost
don't
had
know how we would have gone backwards, but
we almost had 100 downloads too. We're only 30 shy.
yeah,
Not even 30 shy, so
we're getting there.
yeah.
It's all it
We're
counts.
going places.
I'm doing stuff, mama.
Hollywood, here we come.
Movie stars, everything.
So, today, Aram wasn't prepared. He dropped the ball,
Yeah, that was my bad.
which is okay. So we're just gonna free ball it today. No underpants,
I free ball it every day.
just ball swinging and feeling that crisp. Can't even say crisp. Humid hot air.
Yeah, it's not crisp out at all.
No, it was
That's
like
humid as shit.
It was 90 something degrees out, and that's not including humidity. So
Yeah, it's awful. I walked over here from work and I was sticky by the time I got here.
yeah, well, you're just a sticky kind of person.
Oof, that's a dicey phrase.
And not wrong.
Yeah, not particularly wrong.
So, yeah, I mean, what's on the mind? Got anything on the mind? What's that hamster spinning his wheel for today?
Not a whole lot. I had a pretty low key day. Work was pretty slow, so I mean, I did some random stuff. You know, kind of trying to get things figured out at work. Trying to get all that set up.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like plug that I need cooks at the restaurant here, but you know that's my next thing is trying to hire enough staff. But
Hey, I already told you, man. Just have to meet my requests.
oh,
You could have another person.
I honestly I wish I could.
I know you.
Would that I could. Would that I could.
I know you. I know you do. I know you wish you could. Fortunately, that's the problem with us being the workers, the worker ants, is we don't get a lot of say.
Yeah. Hey, what about you? What's going on with you?
Well, I spent most of my day preparing for our podcast,
Well,
and just to find out you weren't prepared. So
we left it open ended. Like we didn't know we were gonna do this today. So
I know.
Try to make me feel
I know,
bad.
but I'm trying. I just pretty much spent most of my morning. Like we did a few things. Like we dropped off my mini keyboard that fried. Plugged it in and it just poof.
Yeah, that was a sorry sight. We were both confused too because we weren't paying exactly attention when you did it. And I was like, you were like, "What's that smell?" Oh no! And then I looked down and the thing was just smoking. I was
Yep.
like, well, that can't be a good sign.
God, I was so upset about that. So yeah, we dropped that package off to return it, and then hopefully they'll be able to get the new one to me. Hopefully sooner than the 17th.
Later, yeah.
They said the 17th, and I'm really hoping that it's sooner, but we'll find out.
This is
And
less than 2 weeks. I mean,
no,
better
but
than
I
a kick in
want
the
it
crotch.
now. I
Yeah.
got the whole Prime thing, and it actually came in 2 days, and not
Right.
like a whole week. Like they say, oh, Amazon Prime, it's gonna be 4 weeks out.
Right.
Well, what's the point of Prime? I can get it sooner if I just do regular mail.
That's true.
So, but yeah, I was just super excited. That's what my plan was today, was to just fuck around with that, just to mess around, and
Yeah.
that was my whole plan. Maybe make a song or two. I don't know, but nope.
God had other plans.
I did not. Yeah, I was a little upset. And then Kaylee had the day off, and she pretty much hung out with the kid. Go away, cat. This isn't
Stupid
an
old
area for
gato.
you. Yeah, so Kaylee hung out with the kid, and when we got back from our coffee and dropping the shit off, and we went to Target real quick to pick up a few things.
There you go.
And I just spent my time down here and kind of listening to music and doing some homework type stuff for the podcast.
You talked to Dreads for a while.
Yeah, I did talk to Dreads for a little bit. Yep. Told him to listen to our D&D podcast and told him that he needs to join our conversation when it comes to the D&D, post-game D&D podcast. So maybe he'll do it. We just need to get another microphone.
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah, no shit.
That'd be cool.
It'd be fun to have some guests, especially Dreads.
Yep.
Dreads would be fun. I mean, there's a lot of guys we could get on here that I'd probably have a good time with.
Yep.
I mean, we talked about Klinkner that one time.
Yeah, I should reach out to him.
Yeah.
We should just double team him.
Clank!
We should DP him and see if we can get him. I remember when, it's probably like a year ago, I started taking some photos with my first camera and stuff, and he reached out because I was posting them on Facebook and whatnot, or not Facebook, on Instagram.
Yep.
And I remember him like reaching out to me. He's like, "Oh, dude, I love your photos. Oh, this and this and this. They're super cool." And it's like, what do you use? And I'm like, I told him what I had, and he's like, "Oh, I just use my iPhone." And I'm like, well, they make lenses for your iPhone, so if you get the proper iPhone camera and you get a lens kit for your phone, you could be taking better pictures than me. Like,
hey, that's for damn sure. That's where technology is nowadays. They made your fucking phone into a professional grade, like, portrait camera. Like, you can do legit stuff with just a fucking phone.
The phone that I have is specially made for, it's an Android, not an iPhone, but it's made for photographers and video making stuff. I specifically got that because of that reason.
Oh, right on.
I'm not going to always have my camera with me, although I would love to. Sometimes
one of those assholes just walking around with this fucking camera hanging off his neck.
Right. I would be that asshole. But there are times I'm out and about and I'm like, oh, that'd be a really good shot. So if I can get it, I'll get it. And it has it does have really good compression. So the closer I zoom into something, it does pretty good.
Nice.
I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's not meant to be. So
it's true. I mean, it is a phone after all.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah. And it sits in my pocket for 90% of the time.
All right.
Gets all the smudges and smears and some lint. Got to blow it out and
Well, my case has got plenty of dirt and shit in it. So.
Yeah, I really hate. I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to phones. I mainly use my phone for audiobooks. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people to call me or text me. I don't care about that kind of stuff. So I don't really care for having it because I don't want people to call me or text me. It's like, leave me alone. I'm busy doing nothing. But it's my time.
I've always been one to say you're better off texting me because I'll probably see it and respond. Whereas, like, especially if I don't recognize your number, I'm not going to pick up the phone.
Oh, I'm the same way. Yeah, if I don't recognize a number, I won't answer. I had somebody from fucking Florida call me twice today.
Yeah,
and
they're out. Like, a lot of people have been getting those calls. Like, I had a number from Jamaica call me. I was like, okay, well, first of all,
answer that.
Yeah, I was like, first of all, you got to know who you're calling. Like, you got to know that homeboy's never been out of the country.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's definitely nobody I know.
Right.
But then I did think about this, though. I was like, but what if it's somebody who's trapped somewhere? And they
just pounded some numbers into the phone and having to get you.
And maybe they're dead now because
this is where we go. We probably watch too many movies.
Yeah. Oh, totally. My mind went like, oh, what if that happened? And what if it's on the news? Like, oh, somebody was found between two walls in Chicago.
Cellular? Is that the movie with Kim Basinger and Taylor Lautner?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans?
Well, he's the boy.
Taylor Lautner did a different movie. I don't think I'm mixing movies together at this point because I think they all came out around the same point.
Well, Cellular came out.
I think the movie I'm thinking of is like Tracers or something like that with Taylor Lautner.
That sounds about right. I don't think I've seen it.
I think they came out about the same time, which is probably why I mixed them together.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
I don't think I've watched either one.
I not necessarily I'm not fond of Taylor Lautner, and I'm not necessarily a hater about him, but I did read, I don't remember what I fucking heard this from. He's too expensive, and
he's got that Twilight money going.
Well, that's just it, though. He's not that good.
Yeah.
But for some reason, because he was in Twilight and he was this big success, he thinks he deserves $40 million for a film. Nobody's going to hire him because they go, no, we just find something better.
Right.
Like, you were at this end because you were like the cheaper guy that we thought, would do this. You're not that special. Goodbye. We'll go to Robert Pattinson.
Right.
He's worth the $40 million.
Yeah. Well, that's why he's Batman now.
I don't even know how I feel about that.
I was never a big Batman guy, so like I'm not.
I love Batman.
I mean, I like Batman. I was just never. Growing up, I was a Marvel kid, not a DC kid. I got into DC, in the past few years because of just
some of the cool revamped stuff.
Yeah, some of the revamped stuff, and DC, I guess, has a darker tone sometimes, which I enjoy.
Yeah, they definitely tend to express it a lot more, for sure, than Marvel. Marvel tries to kind of friendly it up a little bit. They try. They
Stanley
hint.
always wants you to like feel better. Like that was
When I feel like he wants you to like be able to relate to these characters, but not be these characters.
Yeah.
And DC's like, no, we want you to pretty much feel
his pain.
Yep. When both the Marthas died, they and Batman and Superman both, figure out their both mothers' names are Martha, then you're gonna feel both their wraths.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I DC I've never been too fond of. Superman was. I couldn't get into Superman as much as everybody else. I like Batman and like Tim Burton's film Batman. Michael Keaton. That's what got me into Batman. I even had Batman bed sheets and Batman curtains, but I didn't get into any other. I was 4 years old. But I didn't like really get into any other DC characters. It was just Batman. Batman was what I knew the most of.
I didn't get into, like I say, I wasn't a DC kid. I grew up like reading X-Men and I read a lot of the X-Men comics. I'm trying to remember. I wasn't like into Spider-Man. Yeah. I was very not a fan of Spider-Man. I'm trying to think. I think I had various like Marvel comics through the years, and X-Men always seemed to be the big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I followed X-Men at any iteration of the X, like X-Force, X-Factor, all those I was into.
Uncanny
X-Men. Like I say, all the iterations of X-Men seemed to be what I dug. I went like when Wolverine started to spin off, like I got into that. Gambit had his own series for a hot minute. I actually had the first 4 issues of the first Gambit series. Yeah. First editions, and then my mom sold them on me.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying about that.
Heartbreaking.
Right. She only knew.
Right. Actually, the ones that I really dug were the 2099s. Like Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, yeah.
And I had first prints of Hulk 2099. I think I had the first Punisher 2099.
Yeah.
And then I had a long run of the X-Men ones. The X-Men 2099s were interesting. I'll have to go back and look at those at some point. But
I'm right there with you, man. I was more of an X-Men. I think that was my first
there was a team dynamic, and they were always
I loved Wolverine.
Yeah.
Wolverine's always been my first and foremost favorite character. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until much later, and I mean maybe 10 years ago, that I started getting into Deadpool. Yeah. And Deadpool came out in the 90s.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But Wolverine has always been my favorite. And as a kid, watching the X-Men cartoon, I think that's what did it. Was I just loved Wolverine. Yeah. He's just that aggressive brute that just kind of did his own thing.
What's so funny, I think, especially about that cartoon, is he has there's such a it's almost like an adult storyline with him, and especially in the cartoon when Morph dies, and him grieving, and so that it's not super detailed. Friendly. Yeah, but it's definitely not a kid friendly storyline. Morph legit to them he dies, and Wolverine blames Cyclops, and then goes off because he can't handle the fact that his friend is dead. Yeah. And that's not stuff you put in for kids.
Yeah. I mean, it was different times too.
Yeah, I was gonna say
there's a lot of things that we grew up being aware of, and it's because back then we weren't so desensitized, right, as we are now which is weird again because then we're overly sensitive.
Yeah.
It's quite the
well, it's like
headache.
We went through this weird period where like all of a sudden we thought, oh no, we're showing too much, so we really dialed it back.
Right.
And then when we tried to reintroduce stuff, all of a sudden people can't handle it.
We went to 11.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, you don't need to be such a whiny little priss.
Yeah.
Come on. Not everything's about you.
I always see this meme or something like that where it's like it's Foghorn Leghorn like putting a bunch of dynamite around like a dog. And it's like back in my day, we didn't need to know that this was fake. Like we knew it already. Like,
yeah, that was. I mean, it's a cultural thing. It's a society thing. We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. It's. I mean, if you really want to look at like our parents and look at our grandparents' as parents, like they had harder times, rougher times.
Oh, sure.
But I look at my grandfather and I look at the man and his work ethic. It's uncanny. It's that time period you had to, but it was also coming from pretty much farmers. It also stimulates from factory workers and farmers. Mm-hmm. So you either made things or built things, or you farmed.
Yeah.
So, and my grandfather didn't necessarily farm, but he was a tinkerer, and so he got into mechanics.
Sure.
And that's still
that's a heavy labor job.
And then he started doing other stuff, and he went into the Navy. So like, I just look at my grandfather, and I look at his work ethic. I look at his views of the world, and I understand that get off my lawn mentality. That old grouchy motherfucker sitting on the porch with his iced tea and a sun hat and a shotgun in one hand, a dog in his other, and yelling at the punk kids to get off his lawn. I understand why. Because they were raised with a sense of respect, for the most part, with a sense of respect, some common courtesy, and just overall a basic sense of ethical, I guess, rights. Like knowing what's right and wrong, and knowing that it doesn't take such detailed things. Like you said, knowing that a dynamite around the dog's head, they didn't have to question, is that real?
Right.
But technology has a lot to do with that too. Simon Sinek has a TED Talk that he goes through about millennials. Mm-hmm. And it was
Simon who? I didn't get
Simon Sinek.
Sinek? Okay.
Yep. And I have a couple of his books. Super good. I really like him. I like his thinking. And he had a TED Talk that I suggest listening to about millennials. And he pretty much says it's not millennials' faults for the way they are. And I'm like, it's really not. And after he explains it, he pretty much explains exactly why I think the way I think about millennials, or the concept. I hate using that term millennial because technically I am a millennial. I'm the start of it.
Yeah.
But I don't even act remotely close to what that generation of today is. Like 10 years younger than me. I don't act and think at all like these. I think more like the 40s, like a conservative person, or I can't say a conservative person, but I think more of a harsher time. Well, that's because of the way I was raised. That was about it. It's the way I was raised. And he essentially says that there's several things that make a millennial, that term, entitlement, or whatever we think that they're privileged and entitled, or they think that they deserve a sense of entitlement. There's many reasons why that's a thing, and it has nothing to do with them. They're not the ones that are choosing or deciding to be that way. It's the influences around them. It's social culture. It's parenting. It's school system. And he says for the most part, it's technology and the instant gratification that technology brings. Yeah. So they're creating a less attention span because technology is providing a lot easier access to things, and therefore patience isn't learned. It's not developed as prominently as it was 30 years ago, 50 years ago.
Right.
And that's the big one right there, is patience. Second, hard work isn't really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You can have those hard jobs like construction working, and they still get farming, but even the farming has exceedingly drastically changed because they have a lot more equipment now to make that easier. Yeah. So they can get more done because it has to do with processing more and putting more out into the world. Mm-hmm. It's mass marketing. It's capitalism. And he says influence. It also has to stem from influence, and that's including, their friends, their social environment, who they talk to, who they hang out with, who they idolize. And unfortunately, with social media, which once again comes down to technology, they're idolizing these other people over a platform that has everybody expressing their emotions and feelings on it. And they're a handful of opportunities to stand out of that saturated crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people want now, because they go, oh, I can do that without having to be something talented or special or whatever. And we've created that societal culture. And that's why you have these kind of impatient millennials, as we call them, that feel like they're entitled because they go to school and then they go straight into a job, if they're lucky, if they even do that.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're starting to go to a point, there's a pinnacle peak where we don't even need a college degree anymore to get a job that you needed a college degree for.
That's true.
And it's starting to go out the window. College degrees are almost starting to become obsolete. You don't need to go to school for this. There are people...
You can learn it online, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, there are people coming right out of high school that are now being taught these things that I would have had to go to school for when I was in high school just to make a career out of. They're already learning this stuff naturally through just existing in this kind of modern age, and like computers. I guarantee there's 10-year-olds that know more about computers than I ever will.
Right.
And I would have had to go to a 4-year college, IT college or a MIT kind of thing, computer science, to know what a 10-year-old knows. But it's because they're raised. But then again, there's kind of a give and take. I know what hard work is. I know what patience is. I know what these things that kind of went out the window for this those new generation.
Sure.
And that's kind of what he was saying was there's this kind of point about a kid going to school for 4-year college degree and then going to work, and then when they don't move up into the ranks or they don't get a raise within the first couple years there or make a difference in that company, they think they're a failure. And then they don't have the patience, or they want to leave or find something else. They don't think that it's a job that's worth anything to them.
Yeah.
And then you have people who have been there for 10 years working themselves up to the rank that they've been at. You don't have that kind of work ethic or that kind of mental mindset of going, do I deserve this or do I need to earn this? Where's that fine line?
Right.
And a lot of people just think they deserve this and that they didn't really earn it. And so when they don't reach a manager position in some company within the first year that they're there, they're not doing their job well enough or whatever it is.
Right.
Or they go, well, why not? Well, because Kathy over here has been here for 10 years and she hasn't even reached that point. So pretty much you're saying that you're better than Kathy, who knows this place in and out? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of that's that entitlement that you kind of look at. But Simon Sinek says it much, much better. Much better.
Professionals tend to.
Oh, my goodness. And he really nailed it on the head with that one, because he pretty much has said what I have thought. But I couldn't put it into words until I read or watched that TED Talk, and I was like, God, that's exactly it. That's exactly how I feel about millennials. I don't necessarily think it's their fault, but I can't stand them either. It's not really true. It's just, I just don't understand where you get this. People deserve everything to them or handed to them kind of thing. Like, I have a kid. He's not a bad kid, but I had a kid I was going to school with, and he had 3 weeks before the end of the semester, and he was going to switch classes. He was going to drop out of the class because he's failing. He was going to drop out of the class because he had a D. I guess I don't even know if he was failing it. He might be just passing, but it wasn't where he wanted to be. He was just going to drop out of class and then switch to a different class so he can get a better grade. And I'm like, that is not okay, dude. You just wasted like $1,300. And he's like, it's not my money. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? I got so irate about that. And I'm sitting here busting my ass off making sure I get good grades no matter what classes I have to take because I'm paying for this shit.
Yeah.
And it's not coming right out of pocket. I'm having to take loans, but I still have to pay that shit back.
Yeah.
And then he's over here saying, "Oh, I don't have to worry about that. It's not, it's not my problem right now." And I'm like, lazy son of a bitch.
Podcast I was listening to called Small Town Murder was talking about that. About, people that go back to school end up like working harder because they've already been out in the world and they understand that like, okay, I get to go back to school.
Yep.
Like I don't like it's not like I'm it's not like young kids where like my parents are making me go to school. Like I get to go back.
Yeah.
And they know that like whatever's out there now is shitty compared to what they could have if they get through this.
That's how it was for me for sure, 100%.
That's probably the difference in the mindsets too. Like,
well, and for
sounds
me,
like kid was like just there,
Oh yeah, he was
expected to go.
He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
So he pretty much, and he just graduated this past year and got his bachelor's in the arts program, whatever.
It's like Kyle Kinane. You're 21. You're supposed to be an asshole.
The problem is you're an asshole without having an actual reason or right to be an asshole. That's the problem. And I was the same way for the most part, when I was younger. I mean, a part of me goes, well, I kind of deserve. My life wasn't the way I grew up and the way I was raised. Most people in their life haven't even experienced close to what I had to deal with as a child.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like I have some leeway, I have some say about how life really is. Why? Because I was raised at the bottom in the gutter. And we worked our way, or my mother especially worked her way to get us out of the gutter.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of appreciation for that. I don't take things for granted as much because of that reason. I know what it's like to be homeless as a kid twice. And then I was homeless when I was right out of high school for about 2 weeks. I had to live in my car for 2 weeks until I could find a place. And that's when I moved in with my ex-girlfriend. But I ain't gonna go down that road.
Sounds like a different story.
Yep. Nope, I'm not gonna go down that road. But yeah, I going back to school as an adult, like I went to audio engineering.
Yep.
That was at least 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right.
I went to audio engineering. Oh, maybe not quite. Either way, I went to audio engineering at MMI, and that was my first step into wanting to have a further education. Mm-hmm. And obviously I went for music because like being a musician, I was like, well, I would love to learn to record. And so I can try to record my own music.
Sure.
I can kind of understand a lot more about what recording is and all that. And this is way before YouTube became the educational tool that it is now. You can learn everything on YouTube.
Oh, shit, yeah.
You couldn't do that 10 years ago. It was very limited. And
well, 10 years ago, I think we were still using dial-up.
It may have been a thing. I remember dial-up was around when I was in high school.
Or DSL, one of the two.
Yeah.
Which was like dial-up, like light.
Yeah, right. I was so ecstatic to go back to school, and I took it a little bit more serious than I did high school. And that was 5-year difference. I think I was out of school for 5 years already. And
so you had to live in the real world for a while.
I did. Yep. I had to bust my ass. I was like, I just wanted to do something different. I was looking at, because right out of high school, I didn't get the option to go to school.
Sure.
I know I didn't do good on my SATs because I didn't give a fuck, because I didn't think I was going to go to college. The reason why I didn't think I was going to go to college is because I didn't have anybody that was truly invested in my education. Mm-hmm. My parents didn't really care. I can't say my mom didn't care. She just was in a position that kind of sidetracked her into doing other things that she felt was more what she should have been doing, I guess. She's also having to deal with a lot of other things. But I didn't have anybody that put a lot of faith or support in me to try to go to school. Yeah. College wasn't even an option that was brought up to, oh, you're going to college. Nope, it wasn't like that. It was, oh, well, you should go to college.
Yeah.
That was about it. Now, I don't necessarily agree with going to college right out of high school. I do feel like you need to take a couple years and go work your ass off. Go live in the real world. Figure out what it is that the world has to offer first, because there are a couple things that could happen. One, an opportunity, a door could come right your way, and that opportunity could set you up for success without having to put yourself in debt or spend all this other money or spend all this other time, and you could go somewhere because you found what you need. And then there's the other opportunity that goes the other way where you don't get shit and you realize that you've been busting your ass off for barely nothing, making ends meet and barely able to get the meat out of that. And then you take more appreciation for the education you want, which is what happens when you get older.
Yeah.
You take more appreciation for the education you get. And that's where I think that should be happening. At the age of 18, I think you should leave your parents' house and be on your own. Right out of high school. That happened to me, but it was kind of, I was forced into that position.
Sure.
But because of it, it made me be able to support myself and knowing what I needed to do to support myself on my own.
Yeah.
For a little while at least. It really taught me those life lessons that kids don't have nowadays. Devin is a perfect example.
My dad had
to teach that fucking kid how to live life as an adult.
My dad had a joke he would say every now and again, be like, checkout time is 18.
Yeah.
And that was, it was a joke, obviously, and like I've made the joke too, but like at that point you definitely have to start you have to start getting your kids to prepare for what comes after.
Yeah.
Because they can't be,
It's not the school's job to prepare them for the real world. It's the school's job to make sure that they can at least get by somewhat in the real world.
It's the school's job to give them the tools. It's not to prepare them. It's to give them the tools they need to actually work.
Yeah, that's much better. Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Because I went to culinary school, and they taught me techniques. They didn't teach me what it's like in an actual kitchen. They didn't prepare me for a kitchen. They prepared me to be able to do the work.
And then you start working in a bunch of kitchens, you realize that you would have learned all the techniques you needed anyway if you would have just worked in a kitchen and worked your way up.
And I'll tell anybody that asks me, and I've done it numerous times now.
Culinary school's a waste of time.
Not all of them. Some of them are. Especially
definitely not around in this part.
Around here where it was like a 1-year program, it will give you a bit of a leg up in so much you may have a modicum of knowledge more than a guy that's been in the kitchen for 5 years.
Yeah. Maybe. Knowledge-wise, I don't know. Skill-wise, I doubt it. Knowledge-wise,
so that's what I mean.
maybe.
Just a modicum. You might have a tiny bit on a guy that's been in the kitchen 5 years, but you're not going to have much.
To be honest, though, every single culinary student that I've ever had to deal with in the kitchen doesn't know shit. That or they have no idea what it's like to actually work in a kitchen, which is the worst part because you're just saying they don't prepare you to work in a kitchen. Yeah. It's not the same thing. You're not going to get this. There was a fucking kid at Boulder Tap House that tried to pull that shit on us, saying he's like, "Oh, I went to culinary school, or I'm in culinary school," and he's like, "Oh, you're cutting your shit like this, and why don't you do it like this?" And I'm like, what makes your way any better than the way I'm doing it, which is a lot better than what you're doing? Yeah. Kind of thing. I'm like, don't try to tell me how to cook, brother.
No shit.
I know what I'm doing. That's why I'm making more money than you.
I've got an intern right now who she's decent. She works at Noodles and Company, I think is her other job. So, she's got...
Noodles and Company.
She's got, a quote-unquote a bit of kitchen knowledge. But, there are times where, I see her and I watch what she's doing and it's I don't know if you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because she's too quiet and, if she doesn't get her head on straight, she's going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Because, I put her on the line a couple times, and she keeps up, but, you can tell she's barely keeping up. And
if she loses focus for 1 second, it's probably gone.
I'm sitting on the other side of the line on a Friday night, on the other side of the window, I should say, going, "Hey, you got that down? You got that down? You got that down?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm getting that now." That should have been down 3 or 4 minutes ago. Yeah. Let's get it up there.
Once again, those are the things that you have to. We talked about valuing yourself. I was talking about one thing
knowing your worth.
And that's one thing that working in the real world before you go to school makes that a world of difference. It's not just about accepting that the real world sucks and it's hard and you don't want to do this.
Right.
That is an excellent experience to have, to know that, hey, this is the really real world, and this can just kick my ass.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting on the nest comfort, cozy cushion of my parents anymore. I could fucking starve to death, or I could be out in the street with no shelter or not have any clothes on me, but and I don't have anywhere to turn. Now, I'm one of those guys, though, that goes, I shouldn't be able to rely on it. It's okay if you have people to rely on, but I shouldn't have anybody to rely on unless I've totally failed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to do. That's when I can go to those people and go, can you help me out in any way possible? But just to go, oh, I failed at something, or this isn't working out the way I wanted it to go. Now I'm going to turn to my parents and expect them to do things for me or bail me out. No. I don't deal with that shit. Like, Wesley's going to learn when he gets to that age, if it ever happens like that. But I was always in that mindset that I only have myself. Essentially, that's all I ever had was just myself. But because of that mentality that I had, it drove my work ethic up the roof because I could not afford to not have a job, no matter what it was. And for 90% of my work career up until at least I moved up here, I had 2 jobs. I always had 2 jobs. And actually, it wasn't until I started going to MMI that I had to lose a job so I can go to school.
Right.
And then I had to situate myself then. But that's also the other thing is you learn your flexibility. You learn your strengths, you learn your weaknesses, and you learned how you can bend and mend and limber in between.
Yeah.
And that is what creates value. That's what creates what you think you are worth because you know what you've gone through, you know what you can do, you know what your experiences hold it up, but you can't be greedy either because if you can't back that shit up, you're right out the door. And there are several people like me who will call that out and go, goodbye.
Yep.
You came in here with an attitude that you're not meeting.
You're never irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I stress to a lot of people that I've worked with, especially people that have that kind of attitude. Like, dude, you're not irreplaceable. I can find another one just like you. I tell people all the time, I'm not a babysitter. I've often said that working as management basically is babysitting, but I'm not your babysitter. I'm not your dad.
Yep.
I have a kid.
Yep.
And you ain't it. So if you can't do the job, I'll find somebody that can do it. I'm not going to worry about it either.
And I used to get shit about that when I was managing at Chipotle because I used to want to take in anybody and everybody. There are obviously people who I'm like, no, this is not a job for you. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You will not survive one day here. But there are those people who I wanted to take under my wing, even though everybody else is like, I don't think they're going to fit with us. I don't think they're going to be able to do the job, whatever it is. I'm like, but you don't know until...
You have to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Unfortunately, Chipotle, it was like, no, you just know if it's going to work out or not. But there have been a couple people I've hired on the spot, and one of them made it up to assistant GM.
Nice.
And I was like, I hired that guy on the spot. I loved his attitude. I vibed with him extremely well, and there was something about him that just said, I think this guy can work out. I had faith that I can mold him, and it worked out.
Yeah, that's legit.
I mean, he lasted longer than I did. So, and that's the kind of thing, sometimes you just got to give people a shot. But Chipotle was just like, no, this person's not going to work out. I'm like, I bet you they would have worked out if you just gave them a shot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the corporate life.
Yeah, what Chipotle was trying to instill, though, is they want people to fit in with the culture and be able to do the job. And I do agree with that, but you can always adapt to a culture.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily always develop a skill.
Yeah. I think one of man's greatest abilities is its ability to adapt.
Yeah. That's why in D&D humans are the best across the board because they're adaptable.
Right, exactly.
That's why they get +1s and a bunch of areas in their stats.
Fuck yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like all I ever want is a fair sense of work ethic. I want some balance of workload. So if I'm busting my ass off and I'm the only one busting my ass off, there better be a damn good reason why I'm the only one. Like, I better be, like, the only person that can do this job at that moment or whatever. And if that's the case, why am I the only fucking person here that can do this job? Everybody should be able to do this job, kind of thing. And I'm all about cross-training.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I move up so quickly in things, because I want to learn everything, because I need to be able to handle my own. I need to be able to make sure I can do the job and that job and this job. Because if I'm by myself, I shouldn't have to suffer because I didn't know this station.
That's true.
Or if somebody else is lacking because they're not very good, I should be able to help them out while I maintain this job. I know my limits. I know my value. I know what I'm worth. That's one of the most important things about work.
Yeah.
People come in with an attitude thinking they deserve this because they don't want, but then they give me this. And I'm like, fuck that, man. No, I call you on that shit.
Right.
I'm not.
No, you've
not
never
about
been
that.
afraid to. You've never been afraid to tell people that bullshit too.
No. Nope. Didn't matter what rank you were.
Right.
That's why I'm glad that the military didn't work out for me. I would have probably
dishonorable discharge.
I would have probably gotten my ass kicked several times. But who knows? I could have been the best thing in my life too.
Yeah, I mean, you're always one that took all the structure, so.
Yeah, because I'm that's kind of my OCD thing though too. It's kind of my personality. I'm a clean guy. I love things organized. I love things in nice, even stacks and colored, coordinated.
Yep.
I'm a very OCD kind of person. I have to do my dishes a certain way.
You're not OCD. You're just anal retentive.
I used to though have that borderline OCD where if I didn't do things in a certain way, I would stress about them.
Sure.
And if I didn't, like, for example, I remember when I was in my own apartment, it was actually when I lived alone that I had the worst. My apartment was always immaculate. And I remember I left like a dish out and I tried to go to bed and it ate me. I couldn't sleep because that dish was there dirty and I should have just fucking washed it and put it away. And that's how bad it was. Or when I would sit there and stress about like the smallest little things. Yeah. And it just it would ruin my day.
Meanwhile, on the flip side of the coin, I lived like Swamp Thing.
I mean, some people can. Kaylee can. I can't.
So when Chelsea and I first started dating, I had a roommate. He went into the military, so he left me kind of on my own in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
That was way too big for me.
Yeah.
And I had a small kitchen, had a dishwasher, but like my sinks were basically filled with soapy water at one point in time, and just had dishes piled in them. And when
that's gross.
When I
starts to like thicken up, whatever that it does.
When I was home and I needed a dish, I would just take one out of the water, put more soap on it, clean it, rinse it off, use it, and then just put it back in the sink. I want to reiterate, I had a dishwasher.
Oh my God, you lazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, I was terrible. And then I didn't really even have clean laundry. I had 2 piles of laundry sitting in like the middle of the living room. Like one was like really dirty that had to be washed, and the other part was like dirty, but I can probably get away with wearing it again.
Put a little extra deodorant on if you had deodorant.
It's the old Sinbad joke. You got 2 piles of laundry. Which one's dirty? This one's dirty, this one's funky.
Yeah.
Dirty you can wear again.
Funky. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had those exact 2 piles.
God.
And one time Chelsea stayed over in my apartment and I had to go to work. She was like, "Oh, I'll just clean the apartment for him." And so like she did my dishes and I came home and she's like, "You will never let them get that bad again." I was like, "What?" She's like, "There was shit growing on the bottom of your sink." I was like, "Oh, that bad?" I was just like, "It was disgusting. Don't ever do that again."
There's a whole other civilization.
Yeah, like apparently
I
didn't know I had a science
bowl,
experiment in my fucking kitchen.
It was like Atlantis in your sink.
But yeah, so I lived I lived like Swamp Thing for a couple months.
I've never been able to do that. Now my mother will tell you otherwise, but even if you really want to look back at that, like if you could go back in time and see how messy I was still quite clean.
Yeah.
Like compared to probably anybody else, any of my friends as a teenage boy. At the age of 10, I started getting like deodorant and cologne and shit. So when I was 13 years old, I got my first actual bottle of cologne.
Yeah.
Or aftershave, and it was Aspen. They still make it.
Yeah?
Yep. Still make it. You can go to Walmart and pick one up right now.
I think my first one, I think my uncle brought me to get it, was Drakkar Noir. It's a raunchy fucking smell now.
Then my other bottle that I got was Gravity. Once again, they still make it. You can still buy that shit. Go to Walmart, pick it up.
Aspen in like a green bottle with
with a golden leaf.
Yeah, my uncle had that.
I think
shit.
It was technically an aftershave.
Yeah,
we're not Brisk.
Brute.
I think it was very similar to Brute.
Wouldn't surprise me. They probably made both, like aftershave and cologne. Be my guess.
I mean, I didn't know the difference, to be honest. It all seemed. It has to do with probably alcohol versus water content versus oil versus. I mean, that's what makes a fine cologne is oil. Not
you make a fine cologne.
I would make a fantastic cologne.
You got enough smells around this house, Jesus.
I mean, I've told you about my ex roommate, not Devin. Before I moved up here, the roommate I had when I lived in Rockford, his name was Dusty. Me and him had a townhome that we shared. Actually, it was his townhome. I just lived there for like $100 a month, and but we were good friends, and
that's legit.
And we were both very, very similar. Like we loved movies and we loved music, and our tastes were very eccentric and eclectic. We loved everything and anything kind of thing. But he's actually the one that got me into the wide range of music I listen to today. For sure. Like Tech Nine, I didn't know who Tech Nine was. He introduced me to Tech Nine.
Right on.
He was actually the one who made me listen to Katy Perry's Teenage Dream album, and I freaking loved it. So like, there's a lot of music that because of him, we used to just sit there. We used to, smoke a bowl or something, or have a 24 case of beer, or both, and we would just sit there and listen to music, or we would put on some movies or something. Like, either way, the point that I'm getting at is anytime we had friends over or company over, especially if they didn't know who we were, thought we were gay because our house was super clean, and it always smelled great because we were both candle freaks and fragrant freaks. The only thing is that I was a cologne fanatic and he wasn't, but he loved, he used to take bubble baths. He used to take bubble baths. He would get like a beer. He'd put it like a little, I think he had like a little TV or something like that. Like I don't know. And then he would sit there and take bubble baths.
He would unwind.
But I mean, we're not gay, but we used to play around. He used to play around. He's like, well, if we were gay, I'd be the bitch. This dude was much bigger than me, first of all. So, but he considered himself the more girly of between us. I was like, whatever. Anyway, yeah, people thought we were gay because of our home was immaculately clean and organized. Like, he was one of those guys that had Tupperware and shit like that, like just a bunch of Tupperware and cups and shit, and he just put them in random cupboards. I went in there and I organized everything, and he went in there and he went, I didn't know this was a thing. And it's like, oh, I can find things now. Oh, he's like, he's just pulling things out. He's like, where was this? I'm like, it was tucked under behind here. He's like, oh, I have been looking for this thing for like 3 years now. So that was the kind of guy, like, he was super clean and stuff, but he just wasn't
organized.
He wasn't very organized. His room was kind of like a bit of a slob. It was probably the one area in our house that was a bit of a slob. Like, same way with you. He had clothes over here and then clothes over here. Yeah. He had like random shit that was everywhere. He was also one of those guys that had no change bucket. He just threw his change wherever. So he had like dollar bills and a bunch of quarters and pennies on the floor, and I'm just like, dude,
I grew up in a house that was called common surface money. Like, that's free for all.
Well, what he would do, which I think is the most bizarre thing, because I'm amazed his vacuum cleaner didn't break, is every once in a while he'd make sure he cleaned out his vacuum, and then he would go and vacuum up all his coins off the floor. He'd pick up all of his bills, and then he would vacuum up all of his coins. And then he would go and cash it in, and there'd be like $60.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. I swear to God, if I ever catch Kaylee doing it, because she does that shit too. She like, I find dollar bills and shit in her bathroom. I'm like, why is there money on your... I was like, well, it was in my pocket. I'm like, so you just set it here? Why didn't you put it in our little bucket thing? Or I find money everywhere.
A bunch of coins in my pocket earlier. I just threw them in your fucking bucket.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. They were weighing my pockets down. It's like I came upstairs and was like, eh.
Didn't even notice. Yeah, I don't know. Either way. I don't even know where we're going with it. I don't even know how that started.
Oh, it's been a long, winding road to this point. Like we started on something way different than this.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's how it works for us.
This is the example episode of how a normal conversation goes with Tim and Aram.
Yeah. Yes. It just starts with one little thing. Usually, I feel like it's usually me that I know you have a tendency to push those right kind of buttons. That get me going.
I'm a nudger. Like, I will push the conversation in certain directions and then just let you go off. I'm a listener at heart. So, like, I'll just sit there and let you talk.
I am glad I don't get angry like Bill Burr or Louis Black. I would have probably had a stroke by now if I got as angry about shit as they do. Me, I just go, well, fuck it. What am I going to do about it? But it does
not my circus, not my monkeys.
Right, yeah. I don't know. There's some shit that pisses me off, but because I know I can't do anything about it, I'm not going to stress myself about it.
There's shit that pisses me off, and I probably stress about it, but I'm at least aware enough to know that, like, this isn't really going to do much.
Right. Yeah, I mean...
It's just me tilting at windmills at that point.
Yeah, I definitely... I'm one of those guys that... Well, that's the reason why I don't watch the news or read a newspaper and all that shit. I don't... I want to wake up and not hate the world. And it's really tough to do that.
Yeah.
When you pop up on Facebook or pop up on Yahoo Mail or whatever news source or Fox News or turn on the guide just to check out the weather for that matter.
I got cousins that, like, they post political stuff and it's like, dude, like, why? Like...
Right.
And they're just like, they're posting like things that are supposed to be funny, but it's like, dude, all you're doing is irritating people.
You're just poking the bear.
And like, I get it. To some degree, like I'm one that plays poke the bear all the time. Like, I don't mind needling people. Like, that's enjoyable to me. But like at the same time, like I know that there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes I see some of the stuff they're posting. I'm like, God, I'm gonna have to fucking block these guys at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really use Facebook anymore for anything. I mean, I was trying to do it I've kept my Facebook just for that networking purpose because it's pretty much an easy networking thing where if I have a video or a YouTube video or these podcasts I put on Facebook or whatever it is, I mean, it's just a nice way to kind of get an extra couple hundred people and not really have to go out of my way. But do I actually follow people on Facebook? Like, do I pay attention to what people are posting? Oh, fuck no. Because half the time I don't give two fucks of what they're saying, what their thoughts are this week, what their fads are this week. I don't give a fuck.
I honestly, I'll scroll through and, like, it's kind of just a time suck for me. Like, I'll scroll through, find stuff that I find funny. Mm-hmm. Like, there's plenty of stuff, like, there's chef stuff that, like, gets posted that's funny or I find interesting. You know, music stuff that gets posted that I find interesting. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, like, the only other celebrity I really follow that, like, I'm actually interested in at this point is Patrick Stewart, who's, you know, doing his sonnet a day, which I think he's writing these sonnets. I don't think he's just reading from a book. I think he writes them.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
Because I think he posted one the other day where he was like, I've been working on this one for, like, weeks or something, or I wrote this one back whatever, and I was like, whoa, you're writing these? Like, I kind of want to go back and, like, listen to all the ones he's read, so...
See if you can actually piece it together. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, yeah, he's prolific enough.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be captain of the Enterprise without writing a couple poems once in a while.
That's for sure. Engage.
I would say even William Shatner, I'm sure could probably pull something out of his ass and make it pretty good.
Yeah, he's too busy still acting.
So is
Patrick Stewart's not.
I think he's definitely picking his roles.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think Shatner's just acting. I think at this point, like Patrick Stewart's kind of just like Patrick Stewart's kind of just going. Nah, I think I'll do this.
Yeah, I've always wondered about certain actors that have a long lifestyle. Like let's say William Shatner. That over the course of their career, they are worth a lot, or at least they should be worth a lot. But it makes me go, why are they so desperate all of a sudden? Where'd all this money go? Well, I mean, I know the answer. A lot of it's irresponsibility, but they get so much money, they go, oh, fun. Yeah. That looks awfully fun, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with that fun.
Yeah, but I think to some degree, at the same time, I think it's just they just want to work.
And that's entirely different thing. But there are people who get...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely certain ones that just, like, start getting desperate for whatever they can do.
Or some of the shit that they'll put themselves through just to make a couple bucks. Or I hate those actors that will charge people for an autograph.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck are you doing... If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why everybody's so in love with Keanu Reeves, and I'm one of them. Like, the dude is just... He tries to be as courteous and...
He's an all-around nice dude.
Yeah, he just tries to be the best guy he can be. Tries to be a good influencer, and I don't think he really goes out of his way to be in the spotlight to influence either, which is even better.
Right.
Because he's not trying to go, hey, look at what I'm doing. No, he's just being him. He's being as genuine as he could be. And that's why they say he's like the world's nicest guy.
Yeah.
And he's living off of like, I think an article I read a long time ago said that out of like the $270 million that he's worth, I think he lives off of $70,000 or $80,000. Like, he's obviously got like a couple houses. He got like his Malibu house, I know, and he's got another house somewhere else. I mean, so he's obviously got things that he wants and money, but for the most part, I think he lives a very average life. He still takes the subway, or he rides his motorcycles, and they're not like these. He doesn't drive fancy sport cars or anything.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't need to own them if he's in those movies that he's in where he can drive them anyway.
Right, that's valid.
But yeah, I think he like lives off of this. Like,
didn't he give like all the money he made off of one of the Matrix movies to like all the like extras and behind the scenes guys? I think he did that. Like he gave like all the money he made off of one of them.
Maybe
I think to the crew.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't surprise me. I know that right around
I heard that at least.
Right around the time he was doing the Matrix, I think either his sister died or his girlfriend had lost a child. I
thought the girlfriend died. I thought the girlfriend or wife died like with the kid.
Maybe. I don't remember the situation, but I know his sister died.
Guys had so much bad shit happen to him too.
And it was pretty much in that right around that area in the 90s or whatever. And I think that's what made him so down to earth, is because he realized that things can be taken away.
Yeah.
Especially the things that he cared about the most. And so I think that I know he did that for his sister who had cancer or something like that.
Yeah.
He started up a cancer fund, and I know he put a lot of the money that he made from the Matrix into that fund.
That what it was?
And he didn't use his name because he didn't want people to donate because his name was attached to it, or he didn't want people to get the wrong idea about why he did this. He did this because it was important to him.
He didn't want people giving him money. He wanted them giving the foundation the money.
Yeah, he just
charity
or for the right reasons, not just because it's Keanu Reeves. Oh, well, let's put money.
That's what I mean.
No,
like
he
giving
wanted
him
to make
money.
he wanted it to be for the right reason. He wanted it to be
for sure.
And that, I mean, why not? That's pretty much I don't think you can discredit that kind of humble act at all. Like, and I feel like
he's a Buddhist.
You'd have to look that one up. It wouldn't surprise me.
I've been reading about Buddhism lately, and some of that stuff, like,
the problem is there aren't really a lot of true Buddhists, because Buddhism has a lot of things that...
Well, you can't... I think the point of being a Buddhist is striving to something. Like, very few people achieve true Buddhist, like being a true Buddha.
Well, because the whole point about that is the search of enlightenment, but there is no true enlightenment. Like the whole journey is the whole point of what that strive to be.
No, what I've been reading is that, you know, the point of Buddhism is to know, like, that basically to end what they call suffering, which is like your earthly desires, and once you achieve enlightenment and you're actually able to like stop suffering and end those things, like you move out of like the cycle of reincarnation and karma and everything. Like you basically become a Buddha who doesn't die and end up getting reincarnated. You just shift like the positive influence forward, I think.
But once again, there isn't very many. There's only like, I think, maybe one or two true temples and monks that truly follow the rules of Buddhism. And that's what I'm getting at, is that's why California seems to ruin a lot. And that's where you get that, I guess, what I would call the West Coast Buddhist mentality. It technically is just the American kind of take. We said it before. We're cherry pickers. We just take what we want and then we do what we want with it, and then we try to say that's true. That's a fact. But the idea of what a lot of Buddhism has to present itself about, I think amazing. It's the way that, but I also feel like that's just kind of common sense. Just it's just no different than Christianity is supposed to have their moral stories and their moral, whatever you want to call it. Kind of, it's just common sense. Don't do stupid shit. Don't be mean to people. Don't kill people. Don't rob people. Don't do these things. Right. It's common ethical stuff right there. Just have some integrity and have some morals, and you'll get along just fine with just about anybody. But we can't have that. People are greedy. People are selfish.
That's very true.
People want what they want, and they don't want to have to wait for it, or they don't want to have to... Hell, they don't even want to have to earn it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm dicking around with Buddhism right now. I've got a book on Taoism as well. I'm probably gonna look into. I don't know, trying to find something to kind of center myself, I guess would be the right way to put it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not a bad thing.
Western religions is not for me. Like organized religion is really just not for me. Like,
no.
You know, it's. I think Mark Maron said it the best. He's like, I don't have religion because I wasn't raised with it. And he said, you know, he's like, I'm a good consumer because there's no denying that the void exists.
Right.
Like, so, I mean, I feel that on some level, like.
Well, that's what I think is interesting about, like, Christianity is they try to sell you on that, the unknown thing. Yeah. Right? Like, we talked about that before. Like, they try to sell you on this. Don't you want to know that there's something else? And then you have, you know, like Hinduism and Buddhism and whatever multiple other religions out there who have just a different spin on that. But they're not trying to sell you. You have to earn it. Yeah. That's the difference.
You strive, and this is what you achieve.
Yeah. And that's the crazy, like, especially like with being reincarnated. You don't, to make more positive, like you're saying, more of a positive kind of a positive karma out there or whatever in the universe. When you get reincarnated, what you've done in your life will determine on what you're going to be like put out
Buddhism,
there.
Like in Buddhism, basically, like because of your suffering, you're always in that cycle of reincarnation because you're always suffering. Like your desires and everything cause you to be reincarnated because you're never satisfied.
But there's always that. They're not trying to sell you.
Right.
It's you need to earn it.
Like this is,
and then you have Christianity, or I should say the modern fancy religions. Yeah. That have only been around for 2,000 years. That try to sell you on the afterlife, on the internal damnation.
Right.
Sayings like, I don't know. It's
a different it's a different reward system that relies. The Western religion seems to rely more heavily on negative reinforcement. Like, it's more the fear of
tactic,
what happens when you die, as opposed to what could happen if you strive, like,
to live.
Yeah, to live properly. Like, with Eastern, like, I call it Eastern philosophy because I don't think they really prescribe to being a religion.
No, I think it's a good way of labeling it. I think it makes sense.
They just say strive to reach this point, and then like like in Buddhism, like you're being reincarnated, like, so you always have the option to go to try more, like, until you reach that point.
But
like,
I think that
whereas Western religion, like, if you fuck up, like,
then you're going to hell,
yeah.
Or if you're a good boy, which, once again, I think that's the contradiction I have, and that's right away. That's the problem I have with a lot of Christian people, or a lot of Christian religion in general. Is I don't care if you're religious. I don't care if you have faith or any of that stuff. I really don't. It makes you happy. That's all that matters. But don't come spreading it on me.
Yeah.
And these are the reasons why. You consistently say God can judge you, and God's the only one that can judge you, but all you do is judge everybody. Right. And it's not your place to judge. It's God's place to judge. So where isn't that kind of like, I don't think it's a sin, but isn't that kind of like bringing you down a peg on your own religion by you judging others?
Yeah.
That's kind of immorally wrong, and yet...
Well, one would argue there's probably some argument to be made about them that being bearing false witness, or worshiping a false idol, like thinking that you're good enough to judge others when it's really God is the one that should be able to judge. But there's some argument to be made, at least, for that.
Yeah,
but,
you know what? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know enough about the religion, like, because I honestly haven't spent my time in church or studying to really have a 100% of a argument to be made. The only thing I can honestly say is my experiences with people and that culture. Sure. I've had plenty of it. I've been in the belly of the beast for the most part. I wasn't raised that way, but I was surrounded by it. All kinds of it.
Oh, sure.
The only thing I didn't have a lot of influence on was, I guess, Judaism. I didn't know, like, any Jewish people. I
know very, very, very little about Judaism.
Yeah.
Same with the Muslim faith.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah. Same there.
I couldn't tell you very much about it. Like, I didn't, like, I had, I've gone to Lutheran church, I've gone to Methodist church, I've gone to Baptist church. I've even been to a couple Catholic masses. And
the uppity downs and the uppity downs. Which ones are those? That let's stand and then I'll kneel and then sit. Now let's stand again and then kneel and then sit.
I think that's a Catholic mass. I just don't know.
I
don't know if that's an Orthodox Catholic or not.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's a clean comedian that I have somewhere floating around here that came to my high school.
Oh yeah.
And he's pretty good, and that's something that he makes a joke about. He's just like, God, yeah. He's standing and sitting and standing and sitting and and next thing you know, you're gonna tell me to put one right arm in and pull it out. And
that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, it just makes the most sense. Like I say, I'm on the same page as Mark Maron. Like, there's no denying that the void exists. Like, I guess I've always kind of been jealous of those people that have faith, because I've never actually been able to, like, really have it.
Question is why?
Well, I mean, I tried when I was younger. I tried when I was a child. Especially when my mom got sick. I prayed pretty hard around that time, and Mom ended up dying anyway. So I kind of just went, well, I guess that's really out the window.
I mean, it makes sense when things happen and people turn. I mean, I think a lot of people that turn to faith. There's two types of people I had a run-in with most, and that is people who have found faith because something in their life turned them into it, like some tragic thing, some whatever it is that happened in their life.
The come
that was
to Jesus
bad.
moment.
Yep, they end up turning into it, and it's become like their savior. All for that, people. Whatever it did to turn their life around to make it better, that's good for you. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And then you have those who were raised in it. They don't know any better. Right. And those are the ones I stay away from because you don't know any better. That person who found faith is different than being born into faith. You were forced into this thing and you pretty much just believe it because that's all you know. It's brainwashing compared to finding it on your own and going, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've needed in my life to make it whole.
Oh, yeah. I remember one of my friends in high school talking about going to Catholic school and then being, what's the term? Confirmed. That's what it was. And like, oh yeah, I'm like, you know, I was forced to go to church up until then, and then after that it was kind of my choice. And I remember talking to my dad about that, and I was like, you know, that just sounds ridiculous. He's like, well, that sounds like good parenting to me. I was like, no, I mean, that seems like indoctrination. Like, I was at that point I didn't use the term, but I mean that sounds like indoctrination is what that sounds like. Like, you can't force it on someone that young. Like, you're gonna get one of two things. You're either gonna get a brainwashed, soldier, or you're gonna get someone who is outright defiant over it. You're not gonna get a convert.
Yep. But don't get me wrong. Some churches out there and religion has its excellent qualities for younger people, especially when it comes to morality. What is it? When
it's tempered properly, yes.
But when you consistently applying it onto them, going, "This is what this is," don't question anything else, kind of thing. That's brainwashing.
Yeah.
From the womb to grown adult, that's brainwashing.
From the womb to the tomb.
Like, I don't give a shit who you are. That's brainwashing because you're not allowing that person or that child to truly have faith. You've just instilled it in them.
Yeah.
And to me, you're setting them up for failure because you didn't save their soul. If you're going to go on that whole belief that you need to follow Jesus and believe in God to save your soul from damnation, you've damned them because they haven't found Jesus. It was already instilled in them, which means that their belief in Jesus isn't going to be as pure as those who find Jesus. In my mind, I know it's very opinionated, and I'm 100%.
I can see that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could see arguments that could be made for that, or like against it, I should say. But I do really see your point.
I'm sure there are plenty of arguments.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the way that I look at it is, how can you say otherwise?
Yeah.
They don't know any difference. So, for example,
I would agree with you.
If I was born without a hand, and then I was given a prosthetic arm that literally makes me and my mind believe I actually have a hand now, you bet your ass that hand is going to be more valued and more accepted into my heart, into my being, that I have a hand now that I have never had in 30-something years, than it would be if I was born with a hand and it got taken off. Because I already know what that hand was like. Now it's gone. I miss that hand.
Yeah.
Sure, I miss that hand. But I've already had that experience. So when you're dealing with someone who doesn't have any other choice, that's all they know, they don't know the true essence or the true power that something of religion types should bring.
Yeah.
Like I said, those who find it. Because then they know that was it. That was like destiny kind of thing.
I've always been very against the idea of like making Liam go to church, and so like if it's one of those things that he comes to and like says, "Well, this is what I want to do," I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, you can make that decision for yourself. Like, I'm not going to force it. Chelsea and I had discussion like about that for a while because it was like I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to like go out of my way to like make it something that he's around.
Yeah.
Like, if he finds it on his own and he wants to believe, he decides to believe, more power to him. Like, that's fine.
And I'm the same way. Like, if I'm confident enough as a human being to be able to raise my child with the moral views, proper moral views and ethical integrity that a lot of the religions and churches try to instill in that already without having to bring him to church and bring God into it. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like I am that person. I feel like I'm already living a very integral life. But if he wants to learn more about any religion, for that matter, it doesn't matter what religion it is. If he starts asking questions, I will try to answer with what I do know, and I will be 100% honest with him, saying, this is just what I know, this is just my thoughts, this is my opinions, these are my whatever, my views on it. But I'm the same way about fact-checking things. You got to go to multiple sources before you can say that is correct. And when you do even 3 different sources of fact-checking, you can kind of connect the dots and go, okay, this and this say very similar things. These tend to be closer. And then you go, well, why is it? Is it the sources? Well, these are both from Fox News. Well, I don't know if I can believe that then.
Right.
You know, it's favored on one side, but they're all from separate entities, and maybe I can kind of have my own opinion about these when I learn the whole big picture. Once again, if he wants to learn more about God and Jesus, or he wants to go to church or whatever it is, I will take him, and he will learn from somebody who knows more about that stuff than I do. Yeah. The difference is he's not going to just blindly be accepting any of these things. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to take him to that thing, I was like, all right, well, now let's take a look at the other religions out there. Let's culture you up. We're not just going to keep that narrow-minded path going. We're going to open that window, and you're going to be able to breathe. Because if you're going to learn one religion, you better be informed about what else is out there.
That seems fair.
And if he chooses to be a Christian, a Catholic, a Lutheran, a Jew, whatever it is that he wants to, that is his choice. I will support him. Mm-hmm. No matter what I feel like or what I think. It's just the same way if he turns out to be gay.
Yep.
I love my child. Obviously, I want grandchildren, like anybody else. But it doesn't mean that he can't adopt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that he can't impregnate or inseminate to have actual bloodline. Mm-hmm. It also doesn't mean that we have to stop at one child either.
Right.
But I don't care if he's going to be gay, transgender, or whatever. I love my kid, and I will always love my kid.
I mean, that's
and that's all that matters. And
the moment I want for my child,
the moment he's not happy, and he doesn't know what to do about it, is the moment I'll step in.
Yep.
Because the whole point, I don't care what it is that his issue is to make sure that he's happy.
Yeah.
And obviously, those are going to be some challenges way down the road.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully, at least. Hopefully. Because if they start any sooner than, as a younger adult or as a younger child, like, that's going to be quite the learning curve, not even on my end, just my end, but on him. And that's going to open up a whole realm of things that I'm not really prepared for, but I will have to be.
Yeah.
But if it happens, it happens. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As long as he doesn't go around killing people, because then I might have something to say.
See, was it Bill Burt talking about children? Like, put that down. Don't touch that. Don't be a psycho.
Right. I mean, I guarantee that till the day that Jeffrey Dahmer died, I guarantee his mother and his father still loved him. They probably didn't want to accept him anymore, but they probably still loved him. And somewhere in their heart, unconditional love doesn't go away. Yeah. That's why it's called unconditional.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't mean that
they obviously understood that he had problems at some point.
Yep. And if I start seeing him strangling a cat, well, we're going to go to therapy right away.
Yeah. Just going to show up at someone's door and be like, you need to help him.
Right.
Because I can't.
You just strangled the cat. I don't know what to do. This is out of my territory. Do I cut his hands off? I don't know.
He just strangled. I've got to go deal with the cat now.
Right. That's going to cost more for his therapy than my child's.
Right.
I know that's my views. I love my kid, and as far as I know, I'm always going to have that unconditional love. As far as I know, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth because I can only hope.
Right.
I say that right now, but what if it actually happens?
Yeah.
Where I don't know, 10 years down the road, I don't love my child anymore. What if that happened? That'd be horrible. I would have to lock myself up in a mountain somewhere.
Chelsea and I have had the discussion because she expressed a worry that when we talked about having another child, she was like, what if I like him? What if I like the new one more than him? I was like, I don't think that's a thing. Like I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that's a thing.
You don't have that choice.
Right.
You don't get to do that.
He's the firstborn. He's going to have a special spot anyway. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I get the idea, like, you know, worrying about, you know, what if I like this one more? It's like, I don't think we're going to like it more.
First of all, it's common.
Yeah.
It's not a uncommon thing. I've been around large enough families, and there's always been a favorite. And there's always been favorites for multiple reasons, I think, too. Which,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. I had some friends in high school that they had 4 brothers, all 4 tall, lanky fuckers. They're all like basketball players and stuff. And 2 of them were twins, or at least they looked an awful lot like. But the parents were almost harder on the other 2 than they were the twins. But the dad always said that he favored the youngest one because they used to go fishing a lot more or because they interacted a lot more.
Sure.
But they were always harder on the other 2. And the twins kind of got away with murder practically. And I think it's maybe because the mother probably found that those 2 were her favorites because they were the same kind of thing. Whatever it was, I always felt that there was something odd about the way that their parents interacted with these 4 kids.
That sounds like a strange dynamic.
I went to school with the two twins.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I know, they're twins. I don't really remember. They looked exactly alike. They were both in the same grade, so they had to have been twins. But they could have been a year apart. Who knows? And then just in the same grade. I don't remember.
Seems like a pretty close. I guess it's not impossible, but.
But I didn't hang out with them a whole ton, like as a whole family. I used to go over to their house every once in a while and stuff. But I remember the one time I went over there, the younger kid wasn't there because they were on a fishing trip with Dad. And I remember that I was like, oh, why don't you all go? And he's like, oh, it's Dad's favorite. They just plainly said it was Dad's favorite. And then I remember the older brother was like, I don't remember what was going on. I just remember him being in the house at one point and just throwing a tantrum, I guess, like just getting pissy about like mom favoring the 2 twins, and they were sitting right there or something.
Right.
Not really favoring. I don't really remember what it was that he was complaining about. He just kept saying, he's like, well, you let them do this and let them do this and whatever. And so apparently, I'm sure he just felt like whatever it wasn't fair.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
the argument could be made. That's 2 against 1. That's bad odds.
It's true. I've always wondered about that to myself. Like, oh, we have like 4 kids. Am I going to love one more than the other? I'm like, well, Wesley's the firstborn, so, and I like him a lot already, so
right.
He might be my favorite. But who knows? Who knows?
I don't. You know, I'm right on the same boat. Like, I'd love to be able to say that I wouldn't have a favorite, but
until it happens, you don't know.
I would say, yeah, there's that possibility. There's always one that, like, if I had multiple kids, that I might gravitate towards one more than I do the others.
Yep.
And that's just a personality thing. Like,
yeah.
You know, they just might have that kind of personality that, like, I attune to a little bit better, but
yeah, no,
who knows?
You don't know until it happens.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it, and I'm not gonna sit here and try to think about it too much. It's just like death. That's the reason why I try my best to not concern myself about thinking about death so much. Now, not in like the philosophical or existential kind of like educational type way. I think about that all the time. But I think about my true mortality, or I think about if I walk out in the street, you know, I can get hit by a car. So why am I even driving kind of thinking? Because then I would just create anxiety that I don't need in my life. So, and that is what I consistently do, which is why I think that I know I have anxiety issues, but I think I handle them like a fucking champ by just keeping my mind on certain things that go, why? I don't need to think it this way.
Yeah.
But when I do I am one of those guys that have trouble dealing with my emotions, though. And that's why I don't like to be so emotional. When things happen, like heartbreak's always been the hardest thing for me.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah, and so
over the years, I've seen you during heartbreak, and it's
I don't know how to handle it. Like my emotions overtake and get way, way out of control and get the best of me more
You're
than I can
very out
handle.
of sorts when you're heartbroken.
Yeah,
Like
I am.
It's mind-boggling to see sometimes.
And the trouble I've always had with that is like I can't stop. I know what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. Like logically, I know it. But my brain will not shut up and listen to my rational side and my logical side.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the midst of all this crying or whining or moping and around, I know. And I consistently talk about and tell myself what I need to do. But it's just not happening. My mind is just like, nope, this is what I'm going to feel right now. I'm going to do all this to you. You fucker. Yep. Deal with it. Suffer. Mm-hmm. And all I have to do is wait till it goes away. But sometimes it just takes so long.
Yeah.
So
sometimes you got to let it bleed for a while.
Yeah. I've always said, there's that saying that all wounds heal in time. Mm-hmm. And I've always agreed with that. All wounds heal in time. But what they don't tell you is time's never on your side.
Right. All wounds heal in time, but they form scabs and shit first.
They do. They do.
And scabs can break open, can get torn off.
Yep.
They're still tender.
Even scars. Yep. Scars never go away, and they always hold even like nerves and stuff, always have a little more sensitivity to a lot of scars.
Yeah. My scar on my side from my surgery is still tender 10 years later.
Yeah. It's a tough thing for me to deal with. I think that's why I turned to alcohol a lot.
That makes it sound healthy.
Well, I started drinking to help sleep.
Again, sounds like a healthy thing.
I was 20. Well, okay, I can't say I started drinking. I was depressed in high school, and that's when I started drinking. But I drank that like Bacardi Silver O shit. Those fruity.
Oh yeah, that
cocktails.
was the first thing I ever got really drunk on.
Yep, but it was because it was like 5% alcohol, and it went down really easily.
Yeah, it's like drinking really fizzy Kool-Aid.
Yep. The problem is it comes back up, and it's not as good.
It didn't come back up for me the first time I drank them, but it came out awful.
Yeah, I don't think I threw up in the first time. I
threw up out of my butt.
But I other than that, I started drinking just because it wasn't for any other reason than to keep me busy, I guess. Like I'd go to parties and stuff like that. I did all my college partying in high school.
So did Chelsea.
And then I kind of got into college, and I don't want to do that anymore. Then I started getting my adult like staying at the bars and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality. Not going downtown and clubbing. No. I mean like my socializing at bars. I turned into like a Cheers guy at the age of 20.
You turned into Norm?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Damn!
Yep. No, it's exactly what it was. That's when I was down at Joe Sensor's, and I would drink. I'd get off work, and then I would have like 2 or 3 beers because I at least had a couple of them free for working there. And then I almost always had a free drink too. Like somebody always buy me a drink or whatever. And then I would go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and that's exactly, Tim was like, and then free beer. I very seldom, if I had to buy a drink almost every night, I would probably spend maybe $6 to $8 a night on beers, and I would probably put away like a 12 case a night at that time, and then drive home 30 miles. I don't condone it. I don't. I was a stupid man.
I'm more of an adult now, and I know that was wrong.
Yep. And it only took once, and that will never happen again.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I did all my college partying when I was in high school, and I did all my bar socializing, Cheers type of stuff when I was in my 20s. And then I moved up here, and I started working at Boulder, and then Big Mike, he's the one that took me over to Friends a lot. Or Hillary or whatever, and usually I just spent my time drinking at the bar.
Friends is a haunt for a lot of like hospitality people, especially the ones that don't work downtown.
Yeah,
like people from Boulder, probably Grizzlies and shit like that, all kind of go over there.
Justin, I worked with Justin, who owned Friends at Green Mill. Mm-hmm. He was partnered with some other people, but I can't remember who it was, but. Yeah, we've had several conversations about being over there at Boulder and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, I remember people coming over from Boulder. He's like, I guarantee I remember you. And I was like, well, if you really want to remember I was the one that told you guys to get 90 shilling in bottles, and then I would drink them. And he's like, you're the fucking guy. And he's like, that shit was expensive. And I'm like, but it got drink, didn't it? And he's like, that's true, it did.
Yeah.
So, yep. Yeah, I mean, I had some good times, but it wasn't until I think I mainly did it just to pass the time. I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have a girlfriend. I wasn't really seeing anybody that kept my attention, and I just had to preoccupy myself. That's the kitchen life too. You don't really have a life.
Yeah, I mean, you work odd hours, so you don't really get a whole lot of social time.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't like
besides
the sun.
people that you fucking see.
Yep. I didn't like the sun back then.
It burns us.
Yep. Now I still have a love-hate relationship with the sun.
That's just because you're pale.
Well, not all of us can be olive green all the time, Aram. It doesn't run in my blood. I'm
Work
a
on
lot
it.
of Scandinavian. I don't have, what's it, Armenian? Romanian? Armenian?
Yeah. Armenian.
One of those Anians. I know that your name is the mountains, is why you have your mountain tattoo. Yep. I remember that story and was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
My name is derived from Mount Ararat, which is the mountain the ark landed on in the Bible. And Aram's actually the first Armenian king.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty common name over in that country, but it's the only thing that my mother liked about Armenian culture.
Yeah. It's a unique.
She read a book called, or my dad showed her a book called "Hello, My Name Is Aram" by. It's about a little boy and his family growing up in like the 30s or 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my dad got it. I got it from the school library one time. Brought it home. My dad thought it was so cool, and he was starting to read it to my little sister, who was like 5 or 6 at the time. And like he got to a part where like one of the uncles basically just like backhands his wife, and my dad like stopped dead. I was like, "What?
What?"
And I actually have a copy of the book at home.
Yeah.
We found it at Books Revisited like last year or something like that.
Did you ever read it yet?
I've read parts of it. I've never read the full thing.
It's boring.
It's a tale about a boy growing up with his family. Like I don't know if there's anything truly remarkable about it.
It's just called life.
Yeah.
You're doing that right now.
Exactly. But yeah, that was the only thing my mom really liked about Armenian culture when it came around, and so she was willing to name me that. So
hey, I thought it was kind of a unique name.
Yeah, over here it is.
So, but I know nothing about that culture whatsoever. I couldn't even find it on a map unless I.
Well, it's right next to Turkey, which is why Turkey tried to wipe us off the map. It was also the other piece of info I'll give you is it was the smallest of the 15 Soviet states.
Yeah.
So when the USSR was a thing, like Armenia was part of the USSR.
Okay. I mean, if you got wiped out, maybe you shouldn't have let it happen.
Well, and this is other stuff that I will tell people. Like, as far as I can tell, the most well-known story about the Armenians is called the 7 Days of Musa Da, which is a story about how we hid in the mountains for a week while the Turks were trying to wipe us out. So we're not a well-known fighting country.
That's funny.
When I was in college up at Moorhead, one of the guys on my floor was very into martial arts, so he got martial arts books and stuff like that, and they had ads for other books on the back of the book. So one day he calls down the hall and look for me, and I come trotting up. I'm like, "What's going on?" And he shows me this book, and it's advertising on the back saying, "Oh, if you get this book, you'll learn certain techniques like the Armenian death kick." And he looks at me, he's like, "You have to show me the Armenian death kick." And I made some weird move that looked like I was trying to kick myself in the head. And I told him, I was like, "You gotta understand, like, that's not a thing." Like, and I explained to him about the book, like, we're not fighters. Like, we're good hiders. Like,
Armenian death kick. You punch the donkey in his balls and he kicks the guy behind him.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
So that's one of my favorite stories to tell is him yelling for me and he goes, "You have to show me the Armenian death kick." Just like, what?
Christ, that's ridiculous. That's funny though.
Yeah, I hung out with a weird crew of people in college. By the way, I'll plug my buddy's podcast. His name is Marlon. Him and another stand-up comic that both live in Fargo, North Dakota, have their own podcast called America's Barley Basket. And basically the premise is that he and his friend Nathan have never seen The Simpsons. And so at this point... Which
is so hard to believe, too.
It is. Well, and they give, in the first episode, they give the backstory of, like, they basically both grew up in very rural North Dakota. Yeah. So they didn't have Fox. But it's very funny stuff. So they go basically, each episode they've watched a few episodes and they talk about it. Very funny stuff. If you get a chance, listen to it wherever you can. I'm sure it's streaming anywhere we are. So take a listen to it. It's America's Barley Basket. I think they release every Tuesday or something like that.
I should give it a listen.
Yeah, it's worth it.
You know what we should do?
What's that?
We should listen to it, and then we should criticize them on our podcast, and then send it to them, and maybe we can get this podcast feud going.
They're gonna blow us out of the water. They're professional comedians.
That's great. I like that. I've always wanted to be roasted, preferably on an open spit. But hey,
right. Live in the wrong country for that.
We're not far from it, though.
That's true. That's very true.
Well, I would say we should wrap it up.
Sounds good.
So, once again, today was just kind of a free-balling, free discussion. We didn't really have anything. Well, I had plenty prepared, but somebody dropped the ball. So.
Bitch.
So maybe next time he'll get his shit together.
Maybe. You never can tell with me.
It's true. So, this is Timothy Bennett.
This is Aram Banyan.
Thanks for listening. Catch you later.
Later.